Tonight on Meet Your Double Feature. When an infamous assassin is hired to kill a high-profile target in Washington, D.C., the FBI turns to another talented criminal to hunt him down. Bruce Willis and Richard Gere star in The Jackal. Then, when a promising young doctor heads west to become a Hollywood plastic surgeon, fate instead leaves him stranded in a small southern town that threatens to steal his heart. Michael J. Fox stars in Doc Hollywood. It's a star-studded double feature, and it starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Meet Your Double Feature, a double-blind movie review podcast. My name is Thomas, joined today by my brother Frank. Frank, how are you?
Excellent. I'm great.
Excellent. That's good. Usually he says excited, so I think we might be getting better mood than usual.
I thought I'd switch it up.
Yeah. All right, well, welcome back, everyone, to our show. In case you have never joined us before, the way Meet Your Double Feature works is very simple. For tonight's show, Frank and I have both recommended a movie for the other to watch and review, except that it's a movie that neither of us has ever actually seen. We based our picks entirely on vibes, essentially, just took a look at what we thought the other person would enjoy, and we're going to find out if those picks were correct. We're going to give each movie a score out of 10, and then whoever gave the better recommendation for tonight's episode will be declared the winner. Frank, am I missing anything there, or is that how the show works?
I mean, yeah, that made sense to me. We get confused about the rules ourselves sometimes
All
partway
the
through the
time.
episode, but...
It makes so much sense if you listen, but man, is it hard to put into an elevator pitch. So we're just going to kick right off.
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, again, we picked the movies for this episode at the end of our previous episode. Frank, you selected for me to watch tonight 1997's The Jackal. Now, could you refresh us, and me, because I have forgotten, why you asked me to watch 1997's The Jackal?
Well, if you'll remember, it was a backup pick because my initial pick was... Actually, I don't even know if this made it in the episode, so...
Well, I don't think I've edited that one yet, so we can leave it in. You tried to select a movie I had actually already seen that you did not know I had seen.
Yes, which was The Game, I believe that one was called.
Yes, The Game. Great movie, by the way. Still representing The Game. Please watch The Game. But unfortunately, it's not show eligible.
Yes. So I had to panic and pick something else very quickly. But no, this one, I mean, it's 90s Bruce Willis and like 90s Bruce Willis like action thriller. So that kind of seemed like definitely in his wheelhouse for the 90s. So, and one I don't even think I'd ever even heard of this movie before. So it looked interesting, but I'm sure you'll let me know if it was or not.
To be honest, this movie sucked. No, I don't remember if I knew this because I read a lot about the movie after I was done watching it for tonight, but this 90s The Jackal is a remake of a 1970s film called Day of the Jackal, which is much more famous, and that in turn is based on a book. So we are like several adaptations deep with this one. It also was remade again as a TV series like last year or this year. So you picked, I think, the least well-known version of this story.
I'm remembering that now, actually, that I had, when I was looking at this one, I saw that it was based on that previous film. But I didn't know there was a TV show now, too. That's interesting.
I think the TV show, the title keeps getting shorter because the original movie, and I'm guessing the book, are called Day of the Jackal. This one's called The Jackal. And then I swear that TV show is just called Jackal. We're really running out of letters.
It's just going to be called J next time. Like.
Yeah, exactly. Day of the J. So Day of the Jackal's an interesting one. I'm going to do something I don't usually, which is I'm going to open my review with some trivia about the movie that I found out afterwards. Because I think it fits right in with what we were just describing. So for this one, 1997's The Jackal, it is not credited to the author of the book in the opening credits because the book author wanted nothing to do with it and asked that they leave him out of it.
Wow, that's always a great sign.
Great start, you know? He said, I want nothing to do with this. But wait, there's more. The person who directed the 1970s film asked them to change the title of this one because he didn't want it associated with his film either.
Wow. Wait, was the movie complete at this point? Had they seen it? Like, why were they so opposed to being associated with this?
I don't know, but it's kind of funny, and I wanted to open with that, mostly to say that The Jackal 1997 is not bad enough to warrant this much criticism from the people who made the other stuff. Like, not wanting it credited to your book could make sense because it is sort of a of the times adaptation that tries to update the story for the 90s. And so in many ways, it's just not the same story anymore. And I don't know if that was part of it for the novel author, but the guy who made the other movie is just being fussy because I guess he just thought that his film maybe just didn't think it needed to be remade, thought it like stood the test of time on its own, or just really did not like what he saw about this 90s one. So I thought that that was such a blowback for a movie that I would confidently describe as fine.
Sure, yeah.
Like, you read that and you look at the critical scores for the Jackal, and it's like atrocious. I think the critic scores are like in between 10 and 20%. That's just a little mean. I feel like the Jackal is totally fine. It's such a just like Sunday afternoon, I caught the beginning of this on TV and accidentally watched the whole thing kind of movie.
I accidentally stayed for the 2-hour runtime.
You know what I mean, though? Like, we used to, because we didn't have basic cable growing up, but we would sometimes get those like Saturday movies that were on at like 1 o'clock in the morning over the summer. And you'd be like, yeah, I'll put this on for 15 minutes. And then you're like, oh no, I've stayed up. I've watched the whole thing.
I love that, actually. Yeah, those are great.
And again, those movies were often in that middle ground. They were like somewhat overlooked, usually had actors you would recognize, but were not their finest work. But you'd get to the end and you'd be like, yeah, that was a movie. Absolutely. Capital M movie right here.
Well, these are the types of movies, I don't know if we've talked about this already on the podcast, but it's the type of movie that rarely gets made today. Like those mid-budget movies or like mid-appeal movies, you know, where it's like, this is not a guaranteed box office success. Like, and I really appreciate those movies. I feel like there needs to be a place in the current, like, modern filmmaking landscape, at least from the studio system, for those types of movies. I'm glad when they exist.
Yeah, and I do think that for me, like, movies like that sort of peaked in the 90s because it was before you had a lot of technological innovation in how films were made that necessitated productions becoming more expensive. And over time, that's what reached the point where you could only invest in like a surefire hit because it became so expensive to make a movie at all. Whereas these films in the 90s were like peak practical effects, early computer effects, and you could still justify something in like the middle ground, like you're saying.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
So to give more information on the Jackal, that's top-down summary, totally fine. Would not turn it off if it was put on in front of me. But there's reasons for that. I think you sort of talked about this when you spoke about Soldier in episode 4, where the movie didn't really do a lot incorrectly. The biggest things you could say against it were just it failed to be memorable. Like the premise on paper, pretty good. I'm going to assume this is pretty much the same initial setup as the 1970s version and the book, but it's a political espionage thriller where, in this case, in the Bruce Willis one, it's the late 90s. The USSR has just fallen, and so the American FBI and like the Russian government is working together to combat a rising like mafia influence in Russia. So they're trying to take down like a Russian mafia syndicate. And as part of that story, this Russian mobster guy whose brother gets murdered at the beginning hires Bruce Willis, who plays this famous assassin called the Jackal, and basically gives him some sort of high priority political target in America. And so we spend the movie following Bruce Willis preparing and dealing with the logistics of setting up this assassination attempt while the FBI and the Russian equivalent of the FBI try to hunt him down. Like that's our format for the story.
Oh, wait, so he's a famous assassin? Like he's
famous in that nobody knows him. Like there's, okay. It's that classic, like he's a name on the wind, but we all know the name and it's Jackal.
Got it. Very John Wick.
Yes. The main quality about the Bruce Willis character is that supposedly no one's ever seen his face. Some thought he wasn't real, but they get credible intelligence that this person is going after who, at the beginning of the story, I think they believe the Jackal wants to kill the director of the FBI.
Oh, okay.
So that is kind of the framing device that we get. Part of this that I find funny is that the opening of the movie suggests what I think is maybe a more interesting story than we actually get, because the scope of what's happening really narrows in to just be about Bruce Willis past a certain point. But the opening's actually kind of cool. The actual opening credits of the movie, you would assume, would play out the way that like a Jack Ryan movie would, you know, kind of like classic like military march sounding music and just basic information dump. And we do get the classic like newsreel montage, but instead of being set to like a generic song, we get this music written by a band called Massive Attack, who are like a really influential like trip hop band. And it kind of sounds like the intro song to Batman Beyond.
Oh, wow, that's fun.
It's super fun. Like, the whole angle that 90s Jackal takes is it tries to make it very 90s. There's a lot of music that's different. There's a lot of random time period appropriate technological stuff that Bruce Willis's character makes use of. But this intro is like peak. If you told me that the movie was over after the opening credits, I would have been like 10 out of 10. Because you get this awesome music, including possibly my favorite drop in music history, where we're getting all this audio about like the fall of the USSR, and then the build-up to like the drop in the song is Reagan saying like, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." He finishes saying it and the music like pops in really loud. And I was like, that's the best thing I've ever heard.
I think I've heard that used, like that sound clip used in other songs before too. It's just a very timely, like, it's good audio. It's a great clip to use.
It's a good clip, and the music here is legitimately very good. It's such an interesting, stylish opening to the movie that gives you the impression that it's going to be, you know, like a little bit of a different approach to like the political thriller. It settles past a certain point and becomes a little bit more by the book, but I do really want to give them credit for an awesome opening. Like I said, it's a 10 out of 10 movie until it starts.
Until the movie starts and then you're like, I'm done, turn this off.
Yeah. I gotta go to bed. It's 1 a.m. The other element to the introduction, and I'll cover all this because none of it comes back around past a certain point, is that again, there's a Russian mafia guy whose brother is killed in a sting by the FBI and whatever the Russian equivalent of the FBI is. And we cut to him with his band of like cohort in, I think like just outside of Helsinki at some sort of like ski resort. And they have this classic like villain moment where the guy who's reporting to him about how his brother dies was there. And he's like, blames the dude and like kills him with an axe. And he's just like, if anybody else fails, you're going to end up like this dude. And then that's the guy who hires Bruce Willis. He basically puts out a revenge hit to make a statement against the Americans for interfering in Russian mafia business. And the whole setup feels like that guy's a really pivotal part of this story. But after he hires Bruce Willis, he never shows up again.
He's not in the rest of the movie?
None of these characters are in the rest of the movie. This entire framing device about the Russian mafia and their like rise to power, dealing with post-Soviet Russia and the power vacuum there, non-factor. It immediately pivots. The rest of the movie takes place in various locales and countries, but we never go back to Russia and we never see those guys again.
Whoa, that seems like such an obvious setup for this guy to be like the main villain of the movie.
I know, like he could have had influence over the story, but no. And that maybe is them being beholden to the original plot of the novel or the first movie, but I just thought that was such a swing and a miss. Like they really go out of their way to set up almost like, you know the movie Key Largo, the Humphrey Bogart movie?
Yeah.
So that one's not really the same thing, but it's like a cast of characters all trapped in this like resort hotel because of this typhoon outside, and like some of them are criminals, and it's a very like bottle premise story with a lot of interesting dialogue. And I thought that some element of Jackal was going to be these like Russian mob guys who basically couldn't leave this building in Sweden because they were going to get killed by the FBI if they did. Just like reaching a boiling point and bickering and eventually like turning on each other. But no, just not part of the story at all.
Oh, yeah, no, that sounds really interesting. But none of those characters come back at all beyond that early scene?
No, none of them. We occasionally reference that they exist. The story is essentially not about that. It instead pivots to being about Bruce Willis as the Jackal going through the very detailed step-by-step process of how to break into another country and build this like weapon and stage an assassination. It essentially tries to give you the villain's perspective on executing a grandmaster plan rather than just showing you the heroes chasing him and then finding out what his plan is at the end.
Well, that's not a bad pitch either, but I liked the earlier movie you pitched better too.
I liked the earlier one too. I wanted Key Largo in Helsinki with the Russian mob. I just thought that was funnier. And maybe you could say if the other day the Jackal didn't exist, that the version they gave us is more unique. But again, it's literally a remake of a movie that exists. So we definitely could have added new plot elements if we were going to be making another version. But yeah, very strange.
Maybe that's why the writer and other filmmaker didn't want anything to do with this. Maybe the other versions are all about those Russian characters, and then this one was just like, nah.
The first one, they were like, but guys, what about the Russian plot in Helsinki? And he's like, the what? Nah, wait, man. This is a movie about Bruce Willis in disguises. That's the whole movie.
Is he turtle enough for the Turtle Club?
Dude, straight up, he's doing master disguise level, like number of and absurdity of disguises. Like his entire plot revolves around him having like 4 or 5 persistent disguises and identities that he goes back and forth between. And they're so silly. Like one of them, he looks like Guile from Street Fighter with like the weird like flat top haircut. One of them, he's like a fat guy.
Is he doing like voices? Is this like character roles he's playing?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, they're not too over the top, but he tries to play it off as like these are real people that he is routinely assuming the role of, because he'll have different like phases of his plan in different locations. Like, for example, part of his plan is that he wants to build a like fancy sniper rifle turret gun that can like fire explosive rounds and he can control via remote. And so he hires a character played by Jack Black to like build it for him. And anytime he interacts with Jack Black, he's in one of the set disguises. And then we see him use different identities for like different parts of the plan.
Oh my God. No, this is this really is Master of Disguise.
It is. It's absolutely Dana Carvey's Master of Disguise, except slightly less silly. Not even a lot less silly.
What was that weapon you described? A turret sniper rifle with explosive rounds? Like
it's like a super high-powered gun that you mount on like an arm, like something you would mount on like top of like a truck in like a combat scenario, and he just wants it so that he can like control it remotely and point it at something and essentially just like blow it up, with these super high caliber rounds and like machine gun fire. He's just going for overkill on this assassination he has planned.
Wait, so just for my clarification here, Bruce Willis, because I'm looking at the poster and he's advertised opposite Richard Gere. So is Bruce Willis the bad guy, but he's the character we're following? Is that the situation? Because he's the assassin here?
Bruce Willis is the assassin. When the movie starts, I was wondering if this was some sort of like undercover op and that he was secretly a good guy. He is not. He is like legit just the assassin, and you follow him for legitimately like half the movie, and you're intercutting sort of evenly between what he's doing and Richard Gere working with the FBI to track him down.
Okay. Wow. Because like you just saying like he wants this turret gun. Even that is just sounding like that's like Dr. Evil-ish. Like
it is, because I think the only justification you're given is that this is supposed to be a very public execution so that people know that the Russian mafia like has power to flex, and it'll try to convince America to like back out of Russia and stop trying to police them.
Okay, sure. Yeah. I mean,
so that's the Bruce Willis half of the movie. It's unbelievable how many of his scenes don't have other characters present in them, or have like no dialogue, or in some cases have dialogue but with no conflict. Like, you know how like a scene in a movie is supposed to have conflict?
Yeah.
I
think
any piece of dialogue in a movie should be about a conflict of some kind. Bruce Willis has entire conversations with people that just go so swimmingly. Like, even the scene where the Russian mobster, who we thought was going to be part of the movie and never returns, hires him to do this hit. They do the angle where Bruce Willis is like setting the terms. He's saying, I want half of my money up front and half upon completion of the job. This is going to force me to like basically go into hiding when I'm finished because it's so high profile. So I want like $70 million. I'm going to need access to all of these resources. And you know what the Russian mobster guy says? He says, okay.
And Bruce Willis is like, thanks, bro. I love you.
Literally. Oh my God. Later.
Does he say that?
No. But so close. As close as you can get in a way that the movie doesn't realize how dumb it is. Like later on, one of the aspects of Bruce Willis's plan as the Jackal is he needs fake IDs. And so we cut to him having stolen somebody's ID, and he brings it to a forger who's going to like replace it with his photo and all this other stuff. And they have this whole scene where the forger shows up and she's like, hey, I finished making this for you. And he's like, oh, okay, you did great work. And she tells him the price, and he says, I'm going to give you even more than you asked for. And then she goes, wow, that's nice. And then he says, okay, see you later. I hope your baby's doing well. That's a scene in the movie.
Now it's kind of, I know we keep comparing this to other movies, but now it's kind of giving like The Room type dialogue. Like...
Yeah, exactly. Well, hi, Mark. That's basically where Bruce Willis's half of the movie goes. And I think it's the part that most shows the kind of like ineptitude of how the movie's constructed. Like, if you're going to have half of your story be a character who barely speaks to anybody, is off and off on his own, and is just doing a lot of logistical stuff, you need like competent direction and dialogue to frame those parts, or else you need to just not include them. Like that scene with the forgery, we don't need a scene for that at all. I can buy that super spy Bruce Willis can fake an ID. I don't need justification for that part,
yes.
Especially if you clearly had nothing else to add to the scene beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. The audience is not asking those questions.
Yeah, exactly. It baffles me. And most of those egregious parts are at the beginning. And so as the movie was like carrying into the first act, I was like, this is awful. I was completely on board with the people who thought the movie was garbage because it starts in such a low point. But it does, once Richard Gere finally shows up, even out into a much more like normal movie.
Wow. So, but he's only like, what, like halfway into the movie is where you get his first appearance?
It's not that long, but it's too long. Like the movie, I'll get into Richard Gere's backstory here in a second, but just structurally, we really needed to open the movie with Richard Gere because we explain as the movie goes on that he has this backstory, he has a connection to Bruce Willis, and we don't see him at all for the first like 15 minutes. And it results in a very like meandering opening where you're not even sure who your POV character is for that half of the story. And eventually he shows up and you're like, where has this guy been? This guy needed to be like opening scene on him. And instead we just follow the FBI. The only notable character on the FBI side is that Sidney Poitier's in it as like the high-ranking FBI dude in what is apparently his final film role. So that's interesting.
Oh, that is interesting. But I mean, yeah, I was just going to say this almost sounds like maybe an editing issue. Like, I don't know if it's in, like, this came in the editing or the script. But yeah, that seems like such a layup to frame this story. Like, especially like if Bruce Willis is like this super secret assassin guy. I feel like his appearance is the one that you delay. And then, like you said, Richard Gere is who you show from the beginning, and that's how you frame the whole story. It's like, oh, we're tracking this guy down. Like, you build up to the reveal of the Jackal, not the other way around.
I agree. I don't mind the general rhythm of showing so much of what Bruce Willis is doing because it's fairly complicated and does propel a lot of the movie because there's not a lot of twists and turns in the FBI chasing him down. It's not like The Fugitive or something where it's all about the hunt. It's more so just, what's he up to? Like, how is he going to pull off such a high-profile assassination? And I think if Richard Gere got equal screen time in the opening, like, first act of the movie, you could have been onto something. So I agree. It's totally a pacing problem. There's nothing wrong with this on the page. It just is really sluggish in how the story actually gets moving.
Yeah, especially with, like, unnecessary stuff, like you're saying. Like,
I can't believe the scene with the Russian guy did not have any sort of underlying tension where it's like, is Bruce Willis going to ask for too much? And this off-the-rails Russian mobster who just killed a man with an axe is maybe going to have something to say about it? And instead he's like, nah, man, you do you. You're the best.
Yeah, he's like, that's super reasonable. Thank you.
That guy's super cool. His name's the Jackal. Nobody knows him, though. He's got a famous nickname, and we've never heard of him.
Well, and also the scene with, like, the fake ID, too. It's just, like, how much innocuous detail do we need to get into here with Bruce Willis? It's like, see those shoes? I bet you're wondering where he got those shoes. Let's follow him to Payless and
Let's
see.
follow him going through the entire interaction of buying the shoes at the Payless, making small talk, saying, good day. And then maybe the guy being like, do you want your receipt? And him being like, yeah, I'll take the receipt. And then he leaves.
And then he kind of leaves and he's like, I don't actually need the receipt. And then he throws it out anyway. And it's just
yeah. And then he says out loud, I was just doing that to be nice. Because otherwise we might wonder why he did that.
Why did he do that? Exactly. It's just like we can't leave the audience asking all these questions.
Again, I promise I'm getting to the Richard Gere half because that'll help finish the story. But Bruce Willis is killing me in this movie. I like Bruce Willis. I want to put that out there, front page. I like Bruce Willis. I know he doesn't act anymore, but I think he was a good actor. But he does not have effortless charisma on screen to the point where you can put him in this role where he's like super muted and not saying or doing anything. It makes him come across as like inert and just not interesting. Like Bruce Willis can do a great performance if he has dialogue and like characteristics, but they make him this super intentionally flat character and then hinge half the movie's runtime on scenes of him doing nothing.
Yeah, no, I could see that not landing at all. Like his just like his like resting heart rate is too low. He's just
It
not
is.
like,
There's a scene, part of his montage at the beginning too. He goes to some fancy bank and talks about transferring funds and then asks to go into a back room so that he can use a computer to like order the parts he needs for this doomsday gun off the dark web or something.
Yeah.
And he starts talking to like a robot voice instead of typing things in. And we get this dialogue scene where they're trying to show you that he knows about guns. So he's like, I need something that's under this weight that can deliver this high caliber of a round. But then the other half of that conversation is literally like the silly 90s robot voice. Like, you know, the bit from like Red versus Blue where he's talking to the computer?
Yes.
It's that same voice. It's literally the like, okay, sir, this is what you need. And I'm like, we can't be spending 2 minutes on this conversation with him and a robot. Just make this a montage.
Yeah. You know, and again, this feels like editing. That feels like
yes,
where like this needed to be trimmed. Like somebody needed to like tell the director or whoever was making these choices, it's like, we don't need this, or this needs to be shorter. Like this, you need to move on from this. This is not interesting.
Especially when framed against a character on the other side. This is me talking about Richard Gere finally, who needed more time to develop who he was and what his relationship was to Bruce Willis. So in case you're wondering why Richard Gere is on the cover for this movie about Bruce Willis and his alone time, the reason he factors into the story is that the FBI and the whatever the Russian thing is, they're not KGB. They call him something else. They're wondering how they're going to track down the Jackal because they get word that a hit has been placed on what they think is the FBI director. So they're asking, has anyone ever seen this guy and can confirm his identity? There's only 2 people that they know who are still alive that have any connection to the Jackal. One is a woman named Isabella who lives in the States somewhere, but they don't know where. The other is Richard Gere, who is an incarcerated IRA terrorist who is in America somewhere. You know, like the conflict between like Ireland and the UK, or like in England.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, everybody knows that.
Everybody knows history. This was very much a thing in 90s espionage movies. There's a Jack Ryan movie that touches on this too. It was essentially like violent conflict between Ireland and I think just England at some point in the 90s because the land dispute. I don't know. Something about the crown. But it was something that, even though from the perspective of people in the IRA, they were like at war, I think a lot of them were just framed as like terrorists and imprisoned. And, you know, that's supposedly what happened to Richard Gere. He, in his mind, was like, or he says he was like defending his country, but because he was accused of being a terrorist and like setting off a bomb or something, they just sent him to prison in America. But he, they believe, can lead them to the woman who knows how to identify the Jackal. So it's kind of like a 2 steps removed connection that gets us to Richard Gere, who, if you're wondering, is doing a very bad Irish accent.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that, but I'm glad that it happened. I'm glad that he is.
It's not the worst I've ever heard. It's not like cartoonish. I think the worst is, oh gosh, I'm going to forget the name of the movie, but there's a movie with Jeff Bridges and Tommy Lee Jones, where Tommy Lee Jones is like an IRA guy, and he does the worst Irish accent of all time. I think the movie's just called Blow Up or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, aside, Richard Gere tries to do the Irish accent. He can kind of handle it so long as he doesn't talk too loud, so his performance is very whispery. But he bargains with Sidney Poitier and the FBI and this Russian agent who they have with them, and basically says, like, I need you to let me out of here, and I will accompany you. Like, I'm still incarcerated, but I'm going to accompany you on this mission to go find this woman because she and I, like, were a couple, and I need to go check in on her, and then I'll convince her to tell you what she knows about the Jackal. That's how we get Richard Gere into the movie, legitimately like 15 to 20 minutes in, when we probably should have opened the movie with how he got arrested, would be my best pitch.
Yeah, you know, I wonder if it was just a case of like Bruce Willis was the bigger star at the time, and so they're just
Could
like,
be.
we need to have him on screen as much as possible. Like that's like one of the only justifications I can think of for like framing the story this way.
I did read, I don't know if this is true, it just sounds like something someone made up, but supposedly they were both offered the other part at one point and like both asked to play the opposite role or something.
They just traded? Like...
Supposedly. I mean, I don't know if there's any truth to that at all, but maybe at one point in time it was supposed to be Irish accent Bruce Willis. He was like, I don't want to do the accent, I gotta play the bad guy.
But then he wound up doing like silly characters too. So,
he did do silly characters. And again, with no charisma behind them at all because they don't suit his acting range. Anyway, long story short, Bruce Willis makes me frustrated. But Richard Gere, for what little he's given, does carry the other half of this movie. His scenes are pretty good, and you feel some connection to his struggle because even though they don't really exonerate that he clearly did a war crime or something to get sent to jail in the first place, he still has feelings for this woman Isabella and is trying to keep her safe. He clearly has some sort of beef with Bruce Willis that goes a long way back, and he does form the emotional core of the story when we're following his side of it.
Yeah, okay. Once he's introduced, is it evenly weighted between the two of them? I assume this leads to some kind of like confrontation between these two characters.
Once Gere is in play, there's a brief scene where he goes and finds this woman Isabella, who he was with, and we later found out like was going to have a child with, but then they lost the baby because she got shot by Bruce Willis. There's a lot going on with the backstory that you don't find out until way too late.
Whoa.
But he gets a scene with her where he finds out that she remarried and is like living happily somewhere else in the United States. And he gets to have the kind of scene where like they have this big embrace, but then he puts aside his feelings because he knows that she'll be safe here and he just doesn't want to interfere. We get a good guy, Richard Gere moment where he does not, in fact, try to steal back this now married woman that he used to know.
We need a term for that in movies because it happens too often. That happened in Soldier. Like...
It did. That's true. We need it. Yeah, we can't have like a prop husband who's just there to create distance between the actual romantic pairing for the story.
Yeah, like it's like a pre-built family that the main character just comes in and like steals by the end of the movie.
Very weird. You're right. That does happen a lot. But Richard Gere doesn't do that. He's a nice guy. And we get what is probably supposed to be a very emotional scene of him coming to terms with this. But again, in the edit that we got, we met this guy like 5 minutes ago. So it's misplaced. If we built to that, that could have been pretty good. It's acted well, but you just met these two. And so you have no reason to care about what they're doing. And you're still missing critical lore that you don't get until like the third act of the movie.
Yeah, that's a really weird place to put a scene like that so early on, like before you know the backstory between the two of them or know him at all, really. Like that's very odd.
Yeah, because to restate, I know I'm all over the place because the movie's all over the place. Richard Gere was working in Ireland doing IRA stuff with his then girlfriend Isabella, who was pregnant. Bruce Willis was, I think, working a job with them that he was hired on, but he set them up to be captured by the police. In doing so, he got Isabella shot, who then miscarried, and he got Richard Gere sent to prison, and then he escaped. And that's why there's beef between the two for when they finally meet, I think an hour into the movie.
Oh, okay, so Bruce Willis wasn't the one who shot her. He got her shot indirectly. Oh, okay.
I don't think they make it clear, but he's definitely, in Richard Gere's mind, responsible for what happened to both of them, and so that's why there's this revenge element to the story, and that's something they question about Richard Gere. Are they like, are you here to help us, or are you here to get your own revenge?
Oh, yeah, again, why are we not, like, this is...
This is the movie! I can't believe how much time we spend on Bruce Willis's acting class when we should be following the plot of the movie.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, yeah, his acting class, he charges too much for it and then doesn't act.
He doesn't. It's unbelievable. I mean, the most interesting thing that Bruce Willis does in his many, many disguises is that at one point, he's trying to make a connection with someone who works in the Capitol in Washington, because that's where the assassination is going to take place. And so he goes into one of his disguises, goes into a gay bar in DC, and like picks up this dude and just to get his home address and business card, but actually like kisses this man. And Then later in the movie, the only reason he did that was so that he could like do his final preparations at this guy's house. But it's like a weird scene in the sense that I kept waiting for that shoe to drop and the whole thing to turn like really homophobic. And it actually doesn't, to the point where Bruce Willis's character is almost like just like actually gay coded. Like they do nothing to counteract that impression. It's like he could have done this with a woman who works in DC, but no, we just get this scene of him seducing a man at a gay club. And then he does later kill that guy, but it's just because he doesn't, the guy starts to like figure out that something's up with him. It's not like a weird, like, I'm not actually gay, and then he shoots him.
Yeah. I just wasn't, you were like, well, he did kill him. I mean, but I just
he
wasn't
did murder the
expecting
guy.
that part.
Also
Yeah.
pretty bad, I guess. And surprisingly, again, IMDb trivia, not to be trusted. Supposedly, Bruce Willis actually asked them to change details of that scene so that it was more clear that he killed the guy to maintain his cover and not just because the guy was gay.
Oh, he didn't want it to be misinterpreted as
Yes.
like homophobic.
I
Okay.
think, yeah, the implication was to not create this like weird loose end where Bruce Willis had to kind of take revenge on that guy. It was just that a news thing came on and the guy started to connect the dots, and so Bruce Willis had to kill him. Which I was like, you know what? For a 1997, that's so tasteful, you almost earn a whole point back for that.
I was going to say, too, real quick, speaking of the IMDb for the Jackal, like IMDb does this thing where it like kind of charts things that are trending in terms of popularity.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the Jackal is trending pretty high right now. I assume it's because a lot of Bruce Willis movies are, because there's been a lot of news about him recently and like his issues with his dementia and like not acting anymore. But yeah, for whatever it's worth, like other people are looking at the Jackal on IMDb for some reason.
Well, it's because it's a perfect Sunday afternoon movie, you know? If you just want a movie that you don't have to remember the details of or really follow the plot of because it's fairly straightforward, The Jackal.
Yeah, The Jackal.
I've talked about this for like 35 minutes. I have not gotten into the actual beats of the chase at all. And I might even leave a lot of that out in case people want to go watch a perfectly good Sunday afternoon movie. But my beef with the story is clear. It's poorly paced. It does not give enough time to Richard Gere and gives us far too much time following the misadventures of Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like the pros and cons of the movie. Like, I guess, does it lead to any kind of satisfying conclusion? Like, does Bruce Willis die? Does he get, I don't know, comeuppance for being a Jackal man?
For being a bad actor, yeah. The most interesting beats, this is more spoiler heavy, so skip ahead if you want to not get any spoilers about the Jackal. The most interesting beat in the movie to me is like the bottom of the second act, because after Richard Gere realizes that his former love is with someone else and he needs to move on, he starts to sort of develop a romantic interest in the Russian not FBI person lady who is on their team named Valentina. They have a couple of scenes throughout the story that show that they have some layer of connection. And then in the second act of the movie, Bruce Willis just kills her in a way that I was genuinely not expecting, because it's a very drawn out sequence of him taking out these other like FBI dudes, and you assume she's going to get away, and then she just does not, which was actually an interesting turn.
Wow, so this guy really keeps killing or injuring Richard Gere's love interests.
That's exactly what the point of that is. Like, no joke, the whole movie, you could argue some of this is kind of just boring or uninteresting, but it does have character arcs and like proper foreshadowing and setups and payoffs. There's a point in the middle of the story where Richard Gere is talking about how the Jackal's like untraceable. He's like the best assassin ever. But Valentina says like, people like him always make one mistake. And she points to Richard Gere saying like, you must have made a mistake. That's how you ended up in jail. And it ends up being that Bruce Willis does give a clue to her after he shoots her, because she's bleeding out. And it's actually a very like upsetting scene where Bruce Willis is very kind of clinically saying like, well, based on the color of your blood, I think you have about 20 minutes left. It appears to have hit your liver. If you put pressure on it, you'll last longer. If you want to go quick, you better let go. And it's very upsetting. It's like good heat on Bruce Willis as the villain. But then he tells her to tell Richard Gere exactly what you just said, which is like, tell Declan he can never protect his women, which is a weird line, but it is relevant.
What, like, relevant how? To like, does she tell him this? Like, does this reveal something to him?
This is where I get back into criticism mode, because this scene is actually very upsetting and implies that she's going to slowly bleed out, like, all alone before anyone can reach her. And that's very sad. But then you find out that she survives just long enough for Richard Gere to catch up and, like, hear her dying words. And she does repeat this to him. And he clues in, based on this and some other information you have by now, that they have the wrong target in mind for the assassination. The whole time, they thought that he was going after the director of the FBI, and then Declan, Richard Gere, pieces together that he's actually trying to kill the First Lady of the U.S.
Because of the can't protect his women line? That's
it. It's loose, but it's like that and a couple of other pieces of info where he's just curious about some other stuff that Bruce Willis has been doing. He's basically like, why would he set up this assassination this way if he's going after this guy? And make it so obvious that we have time to, like, prepare to protect the FBI director, and then they eventually correctly find out that it was all a red herring, and he's trying to kill the First Lady at this, like, public speech that she's giving. So there was a point to all of that. There was a point to having Bruce Willis get Richard Gere's original girlfriend shot, get his second girlfriend killed, talk about how he can't protect the women in his life. It's all kind of awkward, but it is like proper film storytelling structure, you know?
Sure, yeah. That's fair.
Perfectly fine. And then in the end, we get the third act action scene is that they do successfully foil his assassination attempt. Bruce Willis runs away into the, like, subway system in Washington, and it ends up being just Richard Gere chasing after him. They have this lengthy scene where they're, like, trekking through the subway tunnels. And then at the end, Bruce Willis has the advantage. He's going to kill Richard Gere, but then Isabella shows up, and she stops him, and she shoots Bruce Willis. So we get a fun inversion where one of the women that he hurt in the first place is the one who ultimately stops his plan.
Does he die? Does she kill him?
Well, there's two beats to this. And once again, I keep trying to give the movie credit before I tear it down. But this is where he should die. And instead, he fakes that he's already dead and then tries to do, like, the last chance thing to shoot Isabella again. And then Richard Gere has to grab the gun and shoot him. Which in their minds, like, writing was probably like, well, this pays off what we just said. Richard Gere finally protected one of the women that he loves. But I do think it's, like, a more interesting ending if Isabella just actually killed him.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it almost takes away... It's like the movie was afraid they gave a woman too much agency. So they were like, no. This needs to be about Richard Gere's insecurities.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, that's, like... That seems like, yeah, like you said, they kind of wanted to have their cake and eat it too. They're like, it's like, you just got to do one of those things. Like, pick
Agreed.
one.
And really, the first one was the right one. I think in multiple cases, they had interesting plot choices and then undermined them with, like, too much follow-up. But again, it is a perfectly normal movie. I think the movies I think of as really bad are the ones with, like, nonsense plots and just missing components for telling a complete story. And The Jackal is a perfectly normal-ass movie. It tells a complete story. There's an arc for the characters. The ending for Richard Gere is that throughout the movie, he's had a minor rapport with Sidney Poitier, who's, like, the, you know, beleaguered old FBI guy. And at the end of the movie, Sidney Poitier is out talking with him because they're at, like, a cemetery where they just buried Valentina. And he basically intentionally lets Richard Gere escape because he's like, you know, I said I was going to try to get you freed from prison for helping us with all this, but I wasn't able to. But I'm going to go get us a coffee. I'll be back in, say, 30 minutes. And then he's like, oh, I get it. And then the end of the movie is just Richard Gere, like, leaving to, like, go on the run on his own, which is fine.
Oh.
It's not... There's some setup for this. Again, the movie doesn't give you nothing. This is properly set up, but still leaves you with this feeling of just like, okay, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that was nice.
The ending of the shot is nice. We often talk about on the show movies endings playing out for too long or too short. This is, like, right in the middle. We get that dialogue between them, and then the last shot of the movie is we see Sidney Poitier walking over to get their coffee and Richard Gere heading off in the other direction, and the camera just starts to pull back, and we see, like, the DC skyline as he kind of just recedes into the distance. It's, like, the right amount of time to absorb the ending, and then we get more cool trip-hop music from Massive Attack to close us out. So we end on a good note.
Oh, that is good. Was there any more of that music throughout the rest of the film, or was it just the beginning and the end?
Not specifically Massive Attack music, but tons of weird music. Like, the movie is trying really hard to 90s it up the whole time, and I can't even pinpoint like who the artists were for these other tracks, but it's a ton of really random, very like of the time sounds that none of which are still popular. So it's really a time capsule of a soundtrack.
That's okay. I'm okay with that. Yeah, that sounds fun. That sounds like one of the most fun elements of the whole movie, actually, is the music.
I actually read a list, because I was thinking about this throughout, that they clearly wanted to 90s up the movie, and Bruce Willis does make use of several pieces of 90s specific tech that the guy in the 70s one definitely wouldn't have had access to. For example, at one point, he has to get some information on a computer, so he goes to a cyber cafe.
Okay, cool.
He has a whole plan at one point that involves sneaking into a house, grabbing a stereo, and setting a timer on the stereo to start blaring loud music to distract people.
Yeah, stereos, very 90s.
The whole payoff to his interaction with Jack Black is that his big-ass gun has like an auto-targeting system, and he has to like manually control it from a distance with like a joystick and a button. And there's a lot of like repetition to show you that he has to hit the big button, and that's what's going to make the gun go off. All very like movie tech heavy stuff that really feels like we need to prove that this is like the new version of the Jackal, the definitive version of the Jackal.
the Jackal.
Yeah, we don't need the day of. It's the life of the Jackal every day.
Yeah. We show him go home from the Payless. He watches Friends.
He watches Friends. He says out loud, in case we're confused, I've seen this one.
I think Bruce Willis was on an episode of Friends, if I'm not mistaken.
He was. That's true. That's the joke at the end of the movie, is that it's him. But he's like, just another disguise for the Jackal. Like one of his many identities is movie star Bruce Willis.
Well, that's kind of like, what is that, Ocean's 12? Where do they do that with...
Julia Roberts.
It's Bruce Willis and Julia Roberts, yeah.
Oh, shoot. Wow. Prophetic. Anyway, that's the Jackal. Bit of a kind of so what ending to this part of the review, but that's what the movie is, so that's what it gets.
You know, that was kind of my concern after I picked it. I was like, what the hell is this? What are we doing here? The Jackal?
I really think you're gonna like this movie, The Jackal. Turns off, Mike, this guy's not gonna like The Jackal.
You know, if you just hadn't seen the game, okay? If you hadn't seen the game, that would have been a great pick.
You would be getting such high marks for the game right now. It's really unfair that I had already seen it.
It's okay. I got a pick for this week, and I got a whole backup list. So we're
backup list.
Far more prepared. Yeah.
Folks,
no more Jackals.
No more But again, before anyone gets the wrong idea by me mercilessly mocking this movie for about 47 minutes, it's pretty okay.
It sounds like it. It sounds like, yeah, I feel like I wouldn't mind watching this.
No, nobody would mind. That's the takeaway. It's a totally normal movie. If you're on a plane and it's somehow 1997 and they're trying to show you the Jackal, watch the Jackal.
Yeah. If you ever find yourself in that situation,
you'll completely forget about the movie. Like if you're like having an insomnia bout and you just need to fall asleep with the TV on, boom, the Jackal, 1997.
Exactly. That's what they should put on the cover.
Night of the Jackal, and it's just him going to bed.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
So, nothing wrong with the Jackal other than all those things I mentioned. And that'll do it. So we're going to head into our intermission, and then when we return, Frank, you're going to walk us through, is it 1991's Doc Hollywood?
Yep.
I hate that that's your thing on this show. These delayed responses. All right, back from the break. Frank, we hand things over to you now for your review of 1991's Doc Hollywood. First question, is it from 1991 or am I misremembering?
No, it is. It is from 1991.
Awesome.
Yes. What do you want to know? Next question.
Yeah. What's it about? Who's in it? No. I should probably re-explain for anyone who didn't catch the end of our previous episode why I selected Doc Hollywood. I saw this film at my local library in the movie section, and I was just looking at the back cover out of curiosity, and for some reason, my wife took one look at it and just gave this absolute look of disgust because I think in her mind, she flagged this as some sort of problematic 90s movie. And I was like, yeah, well, I know someone who can check. But I mean, realistically, it just looks like a kind of interesting, relaxing little comedy movie. You know, nothing too challenging. I gave you Deep Cover last time, which sounded like a really serious movie, and I thought this would be a nice break.
Oh yeah, this was a swing in a completely different direction and not problematic. I don't think that I could see how it would read that way from like the cover.
There was something on the back cover, like a pull quote that was something Michael J. Fox said in the movie that just made the whole thing read as very like lame, and I think she just saw that. But I had a feeling it wouldn't be that bad. I mean, Michael J. Fox, I don't think I've seen him in anything outside of his Back to the Future roles, but I had a feeling this might be better than she maybe guessed.
Yeah, totally.
Why don't we, I think I said that the basic premise of the movie is a lot like Pixar's Cars, was my impression. Did that end up being the case, that the movie's basically Michael J. Fox does Lightning McQueen?
So it's funny you bring that up, because first of all, there's a section on the Wikipedia page for this movie that just says, like, comparison to Cars.
Oh, that's really funny.
It's like, because I guess almost beat for beat, it's the same story. But also, the way that I would pitch this movie is like, you know that like meme from The Office where it's like, tell us the difference between these two photos, and it's the same photo? It would be this movie and Northern Exposure, because it is literally Northern Exposure. It's maybe also literally Cars, but it is like...
Okay, see now, for the folks at home, Northern Exposure, if we were doing forgotten 90s television series, I would spend every episode talking about Northern Exposure. Nobody talks about it. I don't think it's easily streaming anywhere currently. It's awesome, though, and it's possibly the most underrated TV show of my lifetime.
It's a good show. I mean, I think I've only seen the first season, but you told me a lot about it as well. But, I mean, I even saw reviews of this movie comparing it to that show, because they came out right around the same time. I think it was either like within like 3 months of each other, maybe.
Wow.
And
it's a trending idea.
Yeah, it's the same story. It's the same exact thing. So
let me see if I can tell you the story, because I haven't seen Doc Hollywood, but I've seen those other two things. So I'm going to guess Michael J. Fox is a doctor. How am I doing?
He's actually a Hollywood, unfortunately. So
his name is Doc. He lives in Hollywood.
No. You're right. He is a doctor.
Okay. He's a doctor who's building a time machine. No. I'm going to assume he is trying to... He's a doctor from Hollywood who ends up having to go be a doctor in some podunk town, and he doesn't like it, and he doesn't fit in, and he complains about home, but then eventually he like learns the, you know, kind of down-to-earth community spirit of the whole place and like stays forever.
Yeah, you got it.
Yay!
But also, I mean, little just note, he's not from Hollywood. That's, I guess, like...
insane. How'd they get to that title?
Well, so he's on his way to Hollywood. And this, like, in terms of the like, actual narrative is a little odd in a way, because he's, like, the film opens and he's doing doctor stuff. And it's actually a really cool shot. The opening shot is, like, this tracking shot that kind of, like, follows through this, like, busy hospital. And then it lands on Michael J. Fox, and then we kind of get a reverse tracking, like, as we follow him back through that same space.
Okay.
So I'm like, right away, I'm like, oh, all right, cool. Good camera moves.
Competent direction, yeah.
Yeah, totally. But he's, like, doing his doctor stuff, and then, like, through some, you know, expositional dialogue while he's talking to his other people there, he's moving to Hollywood for a job interview. So he doesn't have the job yet, but he's, like, going to Hollywood to be, like, a cosmetic surgeon. And, like, the people that he's working with are, like, basically, like, you're selling out, you know? Like, you're not, like, gonna be a real doctor anymore. You're just gonna be, like, a rich plastic surgeon and do these kind of cosmetic...
he's moving, even though he doesn't know he has the job yet?
Yes, that's exactly what I thought, too. I was like, why is this the setup? Why are you dumb, Michael J. Fox? Like,
are you stupid, sir?
Like, yeah. And he's, like, moving, and, like, he has this sports car, because that's kind of, like, his character, you know? And it's, like, this tiny little convertible, and I'm like, you didn't even move with stuff. Like, where are you gonna go? Like, this part doesn't make sense. But
Yeah,
I feel
that feels
like it
an
was
overthought premise.
it led to like kind of a small beat near the end of the film, but it almost seemed like all of that seemed kind of unnecessary. But I don't know. I mean, this was another book movie. It was adapted from a book.
Was it?
Yeah.
What was Time to Book? Did you figure it out before the movie said?
I think it was another one where it said it in the opening credits. So I didn't
That just
even
takes
have...
the fun out.
Yeah, I know. It didn't even give me the chance to guess if it was a book adaptation or not. I might not have, though, because of it's so by the numbers in terms of like its, storytelling. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if that was more of a thing in the book or whatever, but that was just an odd kind of little setup to me that he was on that he didn't have this job yet, so whatever.
I guess it's to maybe they just were like, well, this way he'll have the option to live in where does he end up instead?
Podunk? I don't know. Like
Podunk. What state is he in?
It's some like southern state. It doesn't matter. It's
Okay.
It's like a
It's like New York. It's just Podunk.
Yeah, who cares? The woods.
What?
Like,
He's living with the Keeblers.
yeah. Michael J. Fox is short, by the way. Speaking of Keebler elves,
Oh my goodness, hot take.
It stood out right away. I mean, like, he's a great actor. He's very charismatic. He carries a lot of this movie, but it's almost like, because I'm like you, I haven't seen him in a lot outside of Back to the Future. I mean, I know him and Bruce Willis actually both were like successful like sitcom actors, but I haven't really watched either of their shows.
That's a good point. They had a similar trajectory because I know from reading trivia that Bruce Willis was still making his TV show Moonlighting when they filmed Die Hard, which was his movie breakout, and he had to basically shoot the TV show during the daytime and then film for the movie at night. And Michael J. Fox did the same thing with Back to the Future. He was so bent on making sure he could get his film career going that he basically worked like two different production jobs simultaneously.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that seems really difficult. I mean, for Bruce Willis, it's more so because like for Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future is far more comedic than Die Hard. I mean, Bruce Willis is funny in Die Hard, but he's still like an action hero. So, and then from there he went on to only take certain kinds of roles for the most part.
Like Jackal.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, but it's like almost harder for me to picture him in like a traditional like sitcom. I actually do want to go back and watch his show at some point, at least some of it, just to kind of get a sense of what that was for him.
Oh, for sure.
But anyway, Michael J. Fox is short, so
Anyway, the most important thing here. He ripped off Lightning McQueen, and he's short as hell.
He just stood out to me, because it's like you take like it's like people talk about it with like Tom Cruise, that he's always like standing on apple boxes or something to make him look taller in scenes. They don't do that with Michael J. Fox, and like for it just fit better, I think, because he's like young and like in Back to the Future, it like didn't, it made more sense, I guess.
Well, he's a high school kid when Back to the Future starts.
Yeah. So I'm short shaming right now, but I was just like,
so many people just reached up way above their heads to turn off this podcast.
If they could reach that switch, they would be.
They'd be so mad.
So to bring it back to Michael J. Fox, he is good. He carries this movie, really, because it's, like I was saying before, it's pretty by the numbers. And you nailed the plot, essentially. I think the part where people compare it a lot to the movie Cars is because he's on his way from, I don't even know if they say where he starts, but he's on his way to Hollywood, and he is driving through this rural area, and I don't know, he's like fussing with the radio or something, and then there's somebody in the road, and he like has to swerve off the road, and he crashes, and he breaks somebody's fence. Like, he runs it over with his car, and it's like, it turns out to be like the judge of this like small town. So the judge like sentences him to community service in this town as like the town's doctor, and that's how he gets stuck.
Oh, he doesn't have to fix the fence?
No, I think he's trying to like talk his way out of it at the beginning, and he's like, "Oh, my insurance company will take care of the fence or whatever," and he's like, "I just got to get out of here." But like now his car is damaged, so he's got to get his car fixed like before he can leave, and So no, it's not that he has to rebuild the fence; it's that he has to be a doctor in town, which
classic. Got it. It'd be really unfortunate if he wasn't a doctor and that was the community service he got assigned.
Yeah, just figure it out, I guess. Good luck.
Like, damn it, Jim! I'm a fence builder, not a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just like from there, it's just his big city vibes being at odds with this like small town. He develops a romantic interest with Julie Warner. Woody Harrelson is in the movie, and
oh, interesting.
he is actually the best part of the movie. He's hilarious. Like,
oh, okay.
They do a lot, I think, with his character to kind of subvert the trope of his character, because it's basically like Michael J. Fox immediately falls for Julie Warner, and it's again so simple. This is the main thing where I was like, this is just Northern Exposure again, because it's like he's the town doctor now, and you'll have to help me. I don't remember the name of the character, but the romantic interest in that TV show where she's like the helicopter pilot.
Oh yeah, Maggie.
Yes. Julie Warner is the ambulance driver, so like
that is similar.
Yeah, it's similar, but like it's the same thing where like he kind of flirts with her right away, and then she kind of shuts him down, and then they kind of have this like antagonistic relationship where he's interested in her, but they're forced to work together, and she doesn't want any part of that. But then Woody Harrelson is like who she is dating, so he's kind of like who they put Michael J. Fox at odds with, and you think that he's going to be this like kind of small town bully type character, because that's kind of the role the story slots him into. But then he's like not at all. He's like really great. Like he's like, there's like a few scenes where it's just they go out of their way. Like it's like they know that that's kind of almost what you're expecting him to be, and they like subvert that. Like this jumps ahead a bit, but near the end or the middle, I guess, where it's like Woody Harrelson kind of realizes that she's more interested in Michael J. Fox, and he kind of saw them kissing. Like he shows up at the cabin again, just like Northern Exposure. They put him in this cabin that he has all this trouble with. He doesn't like living there.
That is the same.
Yeah, it's just the same. And he shows up there, and Michael J. Fox thinks he's there to like fight him. So he like tries to like pull out a weapon, and Woody Harrelson's just like, what are you doing? Like, it's just like, I'm not here to fight you. What are you talking about? Like, he's just like, I'm just here to talk. So it's just great. Like, and his performance is great. There's also this other really funny scene where it's like, they're having like a little town festival or whatever that this town does. And like, Woody Harrelson's just like amazing at doing like the carnival games where you're like shooting stuff with like little pellets.
Oh yeah.
He's just like shooting like behind his back and not looking, and like over his shoulder, and he's like hitting every shot. And I'm like, this is so funny. What an unnecessary thing to add into this movie, but like it just like adds so much to like Woody Harrelson and him being like charismatic in this role.
I mean, that's perfect side character building for a comedy. It's so effective to just like the movie's arc is not to be especially dramatic, so you can kind of just fill time with just like cute little bits that move the story along.
Yes, exactly. And it's interesting too, because like I said, this is very much a family movie, but like I was reading the IMDb trivia, and it was rated R at one point because Julie Warner's character, like the first time you see her, she's like bathing naked in like the lake, so she like has this full like nude scene.
Oh, it's like there's that really famous scene. What is it? The Fast Times at Ridgemont High scene with the woman stepping out of the pool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that. And so
this movie's just ripping everything off.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not winning a lot of points for originality, except for Woody Harrelson. That gets all the points.
Yeah, they put all their creative effort behind this one charming Woody Harrelson side character.
Yeah, but there was that, and then I think they dropped like 2 F-bombs, so they were like 1 over what you're supposed to be to get like a lower rating.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, yeah. It was either 2 or 3 or something like that. But Michael J. Fox himself, like the role he had done just before this, again, this is all IMDb trivia, so be taken with a grain of salt. But I guess the movie he had just been in before this was an R-rated film, and like it didn't perform as well at the box office because less people could go see it. So he fought really hard for this movie to get a PG-13 rating, and then it did. And then some people after it came out were like, "What the heck? There's like a full nude scene in this movie, and they're swearing. Like this shouldn't be a PG-13 movie." But outside of that,
real nice.
Yeah, it's very family friendly though. You know, like outside of those like couple things.
That is weird. That puts that in a very weird place. I think nowadays you would never get the flexibility with that. It literally sounds like he just asked politely, and they were like, "Okay," you know. They kind of patted him on the head because they were so much taller.
You got it, little boy.
Whatever you say, Chief. Where's your dad? We gotta stop. George Jimmy. He's probably not even that short, too.
He's probably not.
He's just not movie star tall.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, he was a big star at the time, too. You know,
oh, he's great.
Like, he had enough sway, I guess, to make that happen. But yeah, it's just interesting because other than that, yeah, it's like you can show this to anybody, really. But yeah, I mean, he is great in the movie too. Like he's funny, he's charming, like, and that is kind of what carries the whole thing forward. Because outside of that, there's not much to it. You know,
Sounds very simple.
Yeah, like I'm sure if you could keep guessing the rest of the story, like it's just...
I'm trying, because the only thing that I can't picture is how the movie reaches like its third act sequence, because obviously Cars ends in a race and Northern Exposure ends every 40 minutes because it's a TV show. So I don't know how this movie actually like builds to a finale.
Well, actually, that's a good question, because that is the ending. Almost seems like a little bit off in terms of like how they really wanted to wrap it up, because you can tell like it's leading to this end of second act point where it's going to seem like he's leaving, but you know, then he's actually going to come around, and like the way that plays out, it just feels a little odd, because it's like at that point his car's fixed up, like he's like, okay, I'm going to go to Hollywood now. Like, you know, I'm going to leave this potential relationship behind with this person I'm interested in, and like this whole town or whatever. And like the whole town has this big goodbye for him. Actually, no, I think I have this. See, there's like too many steps in the ending here. Because I know at one point he tries to leave in the middle of the night because he doesn't want to like say goodbye to anyone. Tries to leave in the middle of the night, and as he's driving out of town, there's these kind of side characters that, you know, he's been interacting with throughout the story. And one of them, like, they're like a couple and the woman's pregnant, and like they're pulled off on the side of the road and she's like giving birth. And so he like drives past them at first, like, not my problem, like Peter Parker, like,
yeah, I missed the part where that's my problem.
Yeah. And so then he's like, no, I gotta go back. So he turns around and he helps this woman give birth. And then like he leaves his car in the middle of the road while he does this. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there was a scene where there was like you want to say circus, but it was like a, you know, the yearly festival that they do.
Carnival kind of fair thing.
Exactly. And like these trucks had come in and brought all that stuff with them. And so his car's in the middle of the road, and then these trucks are like leaving town, and like for some reason the truck driver is like falling asleep, so he just crashes into Michael J. Fox's car while it's in the road. So it's kind of like, it was like he made the decision to go back, but then it's like, then his car got wrecked. So like at that point I was like, well, now it's not really his decision to stay anymore, because now his car is wrecked. But then like he winds up leaving anyway, because like the town like pools their money together, they get him a plane ticket to LA. And then he goes and does that, and we see him, you know, kind of a montage of him like doing the like cosmetic surgery stuff. And actually before that is when the whole like interview thing comes up, because throughout the story he's like, he keeps having to call and be like, hey, can I push my interview back a few days, because he does want to stay in the town a little bit longer with these people. And then when he finally gets to Hollywood, the guy who hires him, he was like, oh, we weren't going to hire you, but then this doctor from this small town who, like the person who taught me how to be a doctor or something, called and recommended you. And it was like the small town doctor who he had kind of been at odds with earlier in the film. So I was like, I guess that was the reason why.
This is a lot. This is like a lot to follow in summary. I feel like actually letting him go to LA is like an overcomplication in a plot this simple.
Totally how I felt too. I was like, why are we here? Why did we get this far, like, into him leaving this whole situation?
Sorry, this is like a left field comparison, but in The Phantom Menace, how we're on Tatooine like the whole time, and then for some reason we go back to Coruscant to talk to the Jedi Council for like half an hour, and then just go back to, Naboo. And it's just like one location too many. Like, this is the same.
I agree, actually. That's a good comparison. It's like, we didn't need to do this. Like, this was and it goes on for a while, too. And I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? So he gets the job because he was recommended, I guess, from this doctor in this small town that for some reason knew this guy who worked in Hollywood. And then we get, like, the montage of him, like, not liking doing this and, like, being sad because he misses, like, his love interest, and
he's just not paying attention at work. He's botching people's plastic surgery.
Yeah. At one point, he's like flipping through the channels in his like nice Hollywood apartment, and like It's a Wonderful Life comes on, and I'm like, okay, let's just show a better movie with similar themes in the middle of this one.
Now, if Northern Exposure came on, that would be interesting.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. And then because he had left without his car, which, like, as the person watching this, I had forgotten about at this point, because his car got totaled back in the other town. Like, Woody Harrelson and one of the other characters from the small town brought the car to him in Hollywood. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess he needs his car. Like,
well, LA is a famously walkable town.
Yeah. He does have a line where he says like, oh, I'm going to Hollywood. What do I need a car for? And honestly, I don't know, because I watched Who Framed Roger Rabbit recently, and there's a line, like, there's that, like, same line almost verbatim is in that movie, but it's intended as a joke because it's like, LA and Hollywood used to be a very walkable city because they had, like, trains and trolleys going through before they built the highway system. Like, that's what, like, Roger Rabbit all is. Anyway, I don't know why he said it in Doc Hollywood, because it's 1991, and
yeah, that's weird.
Like, I don't know.
He was too busy ripping off random movie scripts, and they left something in that didn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know if that was intended to be a joke. It didn't sound like the joke he always said.
And then he said, "The force be with you." It was really weird.
We're going home.
If the entire third act is Michael J. Fox speaking as Jar Jar Binks from a movie that comes out 8 years later, that would be 10 out of 10 Doc Hollywood.
Oh my god, yeah. If this just was The Phantom Menace, that would be good.
If you could show me a movie on this show that I've not seen that is The Phantom Menace, I would really like it.
Be that instead. Anyway, I don't know. So they bring him the car, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess he needs that. But then he was expecting it to be, Julie Warner's character, and then it wasn't her. It was like, Woody Harrelson. And he was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go back to that town now. Like, this is like what makes him decide to go back. So it's like that whole ending is just convoluted. And that, to me, feels like remnants of it being a book adaptation.
Oh, right. I forgot. I forgot the book element. I have so much beef with film adaptations of books for this exact reason. They totally get lost in the sauce talking about how everybody feels, and they ignore, like, huge plot elements that in action in a film would just take up too much time or be too complicated. Like, in a book, that's like one chapter. Whereas in the movie, you're completely changing spaces, and it just requires so much more momentum in the storytelling to justify, like, let's send him to California and then bring him back. I just can see that being kind of frustrating.
Yeah, it was. That's how I felt watching it. And I guess it's only retrospectively, because at the time I wasn't thinking about this, but now that I'm like, yeah, that's got to be something that came from the book, because otherwise this would have been much cleaner. Like, there's a simpler way to structure this and still fit in that film language 3-act structure, as opposed to the way that they did execute it.
Because the the thing that he does, like this entire plot arc is covered in the pilot episode to Northern Exposure, which you should all go watch instead of Doc Hollywood. But you already zoned in on the same thing, that he's like kind of a selfish guy, but in the end, his sort of doctor's oath to take care of people in need overwhelms him, and he just stays behind because he realizes he can do good. That's exactly what happens in Northern Exposure, and he had that scene with helping with the pregnancy on the side of the road, and then I feel like, I don't know, you could just build around something like that as a bigger deal instead of stacking several more plot beats after that.
Yeah, totally. Especially because it's like, then he just goes back. Like, we have this scene where he, I guess realizes ultimately that he doesn't want to be there in Hollywood anymore. And then we just cut to, like, Julie Warner, walking out of the doctor's office where they had been working previously, and he's just there. And so it's just like, oh, okay.
I also don't like that because it undermines, to some extent, the fact that we know for sure he's not happy in Hollywood makes the decision a lot more just like, yeah, there's one clearly better option. Whereas having somebody choose to forego a very promising opportunity because of what they know they would lose by taking it, like that makes for a more interesting character sacrifice than him actually getting to try both and then just decide he likes one better.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I agree. And it's like, is that what your book was about, buddy? Because might want to rethink that.
That's funny. So I definitely, this movie sounds like it was exactly what I expected when I picked it, in everything except for that third act. Because man, they might as well have just finished ripping off Cars and had him like win a race or something.
Well, again, Cars came out in I think 2006. So
well, who's to say? Back to the Future, gigawatts.
You can't say that.
Gonna get us pulled off the air faster than the short jokes about Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, so that would have been funny, actually. I don't know how they would have made this be about a race. Maybe he races Woody Harrelson's character for some reason.
Maybe he has to use his fixed up car, and then they have to inject it with like NOS from the Fast and Furious movies.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was just that was the thing. It was like he wrecked his car at the beginning, but then there was the whole thing where his car got wrecked again, and like that was only like, I guess, a setup for like them to bring him his car so that he could decide to go back. It was just like, what are you saying here? Like, why did this, it's like...
Also, that feels like a rule of threes gag. Like, does his car get totaled again at the end of the movie?
No. It's just...
Should have been.
Yeah.
End of the movie should have just been him, like, winking at his new girlfriend, and then inexplicably his car gets, like, totaled again.
It just explodes. Bruce Willis shoots it with his sniper machine gun, like...
And then he says, like, looks like this car needs a facelift, Doc.
He's like, yeah, you know what? I should go back to Hollywood. You're right. I just can't make up my mind.
Yeah. If somebody shows up in a car and then takes me back there, I'll do it.
I don't have any agency here. Just tell me where to go.
Where to go? I'm not old enough to drive. All right. Well, I feel like I have a beat on Doc Hollywood. Is there any other major points you wanted to make, or should we move into final scores and wrap up?
I mean, yeah, I guess that's it. I know I again, just spent that whole time making fun of it in some ways, but it wasn't bad.
Well, that's not our fault. Like, we always try to highlight the things that are most interesting to us, and very by-the-numbers movie-making stuff is so easy to summarize. It's like, yeah, whatever, it's a movie. But then those little quirks are so much more interesting to, like, hone in on.
Yeah. Yeah, and it, like, again, it did a lot of things really well. The performances were good. The cinematography was good. I mean, like, the DP on this film had done some of the other movies he worked on were, like, major. He did Raging Bull, which we talked about recently.
Oh, we did, with camera.
Yeah, he was the DP on The Fugitive, Space Jam.
Oh, okay, come on and slam. Now we're on to something.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, yeah, it's like I don't have as much to say about those other things because they weren't errors, It was just like they were done competently enough that it was just like, okay, yeah, this is fine. That's
an area we keep falling into. I mean, we're trying to seek out films of the 90s that didn't really make a strong impact and people don't talk about much now. And the main way you get to that is by being perfectly okay. Like, if the movie's really bad, you're onto something. And if it's really good, people will, like, still want to talk about it. But some of these just fall right in the middle of like, yeah, it's fine. It's a movie.
Which, again, is not bad.
No, that's hard to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because they're still, movies are still really hard to make. And I'm sure a lot of effort went into making this. And to make something that wasn't bad and was, relatively entertaining to sit through. Like, I wasn't like Grifters where I was like halfway through and I was like, can I not be here? But like, like, I don't want to turn Grifters off. I just want to leave. Like,
yeah. It's not that, and it's not me like hate watching a Woody Allen movie for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just stewing on that.
I was just like, okay, talk Hollywood, bet. Cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cars and stuff. Lightning McQueen. Ka-choom.
Yeah, that's fine. His car even looks like Lightning McQueen, by the way. It's red and like
that's so funny.
A car.
And a car. See, I feel like we're putting all the blame here on the movie that came first. Maybe whoever wrote Cars was just like, guys, I need something. And he was sitting there watching Doc Hollywood because it was a perfectly okay movie.
Yeah, like that's the Wikipedia section on this movie. It was like, hey, by the way, do you know Cars like stole this? Weird, right?
Weird, yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
That's it? Okay. All right, well, we're going to move into final scores and wrap up. I guess I'll go first since I did the first review. I know I'd spent a lot of time talking about things in Jackal that made me mad, and how Bruce Willis made me mad, and how he had too many disguises, and they were really dumb. But again, it's a perfectly good movie. I didn't feel bored watching it. I was still relatively engaged in what was happening. I just had so many like constructive notes for how to make the story more succinct and engaging. So I'm going to say overall score out of 10, I'm going to give The Jackal a 5.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's better than I thought, actually.
It could have easily been higher than that. It just didn't do enough. Like you were saying that Doc Hollywood gets credit for having some interesting cinematography. The Jackal just didn't have any particularly strong dialogue or lighting or cinematography or music. I mean, the music was a highlight, but a lot of it was good and then a lot of it was super jarring. So that kind of equals out. It just didn't do enough to fall on either side of the fence. And it ends up just kind of being right in the middle as a 5.
Yeah. 5 is the new 7. It's
5 is the new 7. What does that even mean?
It's just whatever. It's a 5. No, that's valid. Like I think that actually like again, it almost seems higher than I thought you would give it based on how you described it. But it seems like
I got more mad the more I lingered on it. But none of that was my feeling when watching the movie.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
All right, Doc Hollywood. Final thoughts.
Doc Hollywood, I'm gonna give it a 6. I'm in the moment making a fair assessment here. I think it's a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
I think it's like, again, just like fine. It's just like,
it's all right.
It's all right. I was like, well, yeah, okay, this is fun. And it had just enough to kind of push it over the edge in some ways to being like memorable. And like Woody Harrelson's performance and character, like the way that he was written and the way Woody Harrelson handled it, I was like, oh, that's interesting, and Michael J. Fox is like honestly great. Like he played this mostly comedic, but he did have a few scenes where he had to be kind of like dramatic Dr. Man. And he kind of switched between those two pretty seamlessly. So he gets a lot of credit from me for that. And I think this is, right before he kind of started, having a downturn in his acting career because of his Parkinson's too. So this, I think, was like a later, like prime, like Michael J. Fox movie.
I know a bit about this because there was a very good documentary released a couple years ago about his career in relationship to developing Parkinson's. And it was actually surprising how long he went without letting anybody know that he'd been diagnosed with it. So there's a montage in that documentary of shots from all of his films from a certain point onward where you can see that he has like hand spasms. that he's trying to hide that go all the way up until like the early 2000s before he really felt comfortable explaining that was happening to him and that he needed to like kind of change his life around it. So it's really interesting that he might have had some small signs of it already, even in the early 90s, but nobody knew about it. He just continued on with his career for quite a long time while already dealing with that.
Well, that's actually in line with what I read as well. According to, I think this was maybe not in the documentary, but he did a biography of his or something. But it literally started while he was filming this movie. Like he's, from his own recollection, it was like his finger would like twitch pretty uncontrollably.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. That's like an interesting little piece of legacy for this work of his.
Yeah, because there was somewhere in the trivia for this film, there was a note that there are several scenes where you can see him like keeping his hand in his pocket, and it was like you said, to kind of like keep that private.
That was actually some of the, I don't know, kind of more like artful takeaways from the documentary was that a lot of his roles, specifically Back to the Future, were playing characters that were kind of always in motion already, like even before he had to work around the Parkinson's issue. And then as he went on, he started to do what you just said, but like more and more. He would make sure to be like playing with something in his hands or have his hands in his pockets, anything to make it less obvious that he was having trouble controlling the movement. But coincidentally, he just kind of become known as this character that was always in motion anyway. And it played a little montage of him like doing the skateboarding scenes in Back to the Future, or how I think the first scene of him on this sitcom he made later in his life starts with him like rollerblading through like an office building. Like there's just kind of an interesting legacy for his performance that he was always full of so much. He's always been full of so much like energy and just kind of ceaseless motion.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, he had a great career, like, and like well-deserved too. Like he is, again, a great actor, and he's great in this. Like this, like, could have been a much worse movie if it wasn't, led by him.
Yeah. I think that's probably, I mean, that's what gets you above the 5 out of 10 is to have a strong performance or just a couple of interesting quirks. And this one, as unoriginal as you could argue it is, it seems to have found something to kind of latch onto there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Ripped off Cars 15 years earlier.
Cars, it ripped off Jar Jar Binks. I don't know how they got away with that. Okay, so that's a 5 for the Jackal, a 6 for Doc Hollywood, which means that I have won the episode just barely by 1 point difference.
Yeah, it was a close one.
It was a close one. There's still, even looking at the season 1 totals, it's really close. I think there's a 5-point difference in cumulative scores for the movies I've recommended to you versus ones you've recommended to me. So definitely still time. I will say, as far as plotting, where the show's going, I think we're going to do 12 episodes in season 1, so 12 movies each for this 90s theme, which means that this is the end of the halfway point.
Oh, halftime. All right, great.
Halftime report. You're down by 5, which is a kind of a football-y score to be down by.
Well, I'm going to go give myself a pep talk in the locker room.
He's just drawing diagrams. Just like, listen, we gotta hit him from the side. Enough of this Jackal stuff.
Yeah, it's just a big X over Jackal.
Yeah, we'll see. So by the end of 12 episodes, we'll see who is the overall winner. That person will get a prize. We have no idea what it is. We'll figure that out.
Oh, fun. All right, cool.
Yeah. But for now, why don't we move into our selections for the next episode, which will air in 2 weeks. Because my movie won the day today, I will go ahead and go first, which I wish I didn't have to because I'm kind of stumped. I have a couple of different movies that I think you would like, and I kind of just got to pick one out of a hat, I think.
Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace. Yeah, have you ever seen that one? I know that a couple episodes back, you gave me a martial arts movie to watch, which is super fun. I know we're both such big fans, but you have not had one yet. And even the action movie I gave you, Soldier, was kind of light on action. So I think I'm going to remedy that today. So your next movie, Frank, for episode 7 is 1993's Shoot Fighter, Fight to the Death.
Whoa, Shoot Fighter.
Shoot Fighter, Fight to the Death, which I know is going to pique your interest because it was made in 1993 and stars both Billy Zabka, a.k.a. Johnny Lawrence from Karate Kid,
hell yes.
And Martin Kove, a.k.a. Kreese from Karate Kid.
What?
So it is both Johnny Lawrence and Sensei Kreese in a mid-90s, low-budget martial arts film that I'm pretty sure just has, like, the classic Mortal Kombat-esque Tournament of Death premise.
Oh my gosh. All right, we can just skip next episode. 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10.
Moving on. This is in the Cobra Kai verse somehow. Like
As close as you can get without literally being part of the Karate Kid lore. I have no idea how I didn't know this existed. I found it today.
Oh, wow. All right.
I just had to shoot right to the top of the list. So again, that's Shoot Fighter, Fight to the Death.
That is... It sounds like an arcade game title almost.
It does. Oh, also, I didn't list him in the cast, but I kind of, like, poured over the trailer. I swear Bolo Young is in this one, too.
Oh, dude. Bolo Young. That's my guy.
That's my guy, Bolo. Bolo fan in the house.
That's awesome. I hope he is. I'll be eagerly awaiting his appearance.
All right, so that's your selection for our next episode. What do you have for me to try to start the second half strong?
Yeah. Oh, shoot. I didn't have time to give myself a pep talk or yell at myself. What was I supposed to do?
You're supposed to berate yourself for your inadequacies.
Get out there and do better.
Yeah.
You got 1995's Fallen Angels.
95 Fallen Angels. I am not familiar with this one.
Good.
That's the point.
Are you new? No. It's I think I mentioned last time maybe that I wanted to recommend a foreign film.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I hope this is. It's so Fallen Angels is according to Wikipedia a Hong Kong neo-noir crime comedy drama. So
just check all the boxes, please.
Yeah, a lot going on there.
Crime comedy. Okay, that sounds awesome. I'm so on board.
Yeah, but you may have heard this director, like his bigger film that he had done just before this one actually was Chungking Express. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. At all, but
I've definitely heard that title. That has been like a watch list item for me for so long, and I never saw it. But that informs what I think about Fallen Angels. I'm sensing a winner.
Yeah, me too. It looks good.
I hope. I am down by 5.
Did you hear the pep talk? No. Yeah, no, it looks cool. It's like, I guess this was one that he did right after that isn't as... I think it has similar critical acclaim, but not as much like mainstream awareness as Chungking Express. Because it was like, he did that, then he did this one, and then he kind of moved on to like other films. I think he went to go do like more movies in the US actually. This was one of his last ones that he did like in China.
Perfect. That's a perfect fit for the show. It's an overlooked 90s movie.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Fallen Angels 95. We got Shoot Fighter Fight to the Death 93. So far, we have picked movies from every year of the 90s except for 1994 and 1999. So, Phantom Menace.
Chungking Express came out in 1994, so...
Ah, okay. Awesome. Well, that sounds exciting. I want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us, as always. And before we go tonight, Frank is going to give you that pep talk for himself, uninterrupted, for 5 minutes.
You didn't do very good out there, or ever really.
Why is he so nervous?
Should really reconsider a lot of things that you have done and plan on doing.
Jesus Christ. Oh, no wonder they're losing. This is the worst coach.
What was this supposed to be? There was a pep talk?
It was supposed to be a pep talk. It was like a sad book report.
Coming up next, it's Shoot Fighter, Fight to the Death, followed by Fallen Angels on Meet Your Double Feature.